Hey guys, what's going on? Blaine back for another Netflix review, and today I'm going to be talking about Goyo. Goyo is an Argentinian romantic drama that tells the story of its titular character Goyo, a guide at an art museum who lives a strictly regimented life on account of his autism and Asperger's syndrome. His life quickly changes when he encounters a woman named Eva. As it turns out, Eva happens to be a newly hired security guard at the same museum that Goyo works at. Despite a rocky introduction, the two begin to spend more time with each other, understanding each other better as human beings, and eventually developing an inevitable romance. While it tends to be slower and more tonally inconsistent than it should be, in general, I thought this was a sweet love story. It addresses the topics of age gap and neurodiverse relationships in mature fashion, and develops its characters in a riveting and natural way. The main character Goyo, also known by his full name Gregorio, was an engaging protagonist to follow along the story with. His quirky personality and incredible intellect about art endeared me to him as a character, and I found myself becoming more attached to him as details behind his tragic family life slowly became unveiled. As far as his autism is concerned, I thought his actor did a great job portraying it. As someone who's autistic myself, I'm always wary when movies use it as a topic, as it risks being misunderstood or shown in a negative way, but here that wasn't the case, as the filmmakers did a great job with it. Even though Goyo relies on family members to look after him in some capacity, he's very much his own person. He works a paying job, takes swimming lessons, and struggles to find motivation to take up painting again until he meets Eva. He lives life and experiences challenges the same way anyone else might, so his relatability helped me connect with him better. The other main character, Eva, is also a sympathetic character, and for different reasons than how Goyo is. She tries her best to make ends meet for her family as a single mom, and has to keep pushing away her no-good ex-husband who tries to worm his way back in. Her tough family life is something many people unfortunately go through, and her performance drew me in to see how she'd overcome her struggles. I appreciated how her character is independent and doesn't try to find someone to save her from her situation, as it reinforces her maturity and resolve to change her life for the better. Her relationship with her kids isn't fleshed out as much as I would have liked to see, but aside from that, I was very much invested in Eva turning her life around. The relationship between these two characters doesn't exactly start off on the right foot. In fact, it's almost downright creepy between the two, though it's clearly done on purpose to highlight the differences between the two characters right away. Once they get over their initial hump, that's when they start to bond in fun ways. It unfolds more or less in the way one would expect a relationship to grow naturally. They spend time together on dates, get to know each other as people, and move on to more romantic activities in private settings. It seems ordinary at first glance, and yet that's what makes the relationship so fascinating, is just how normal it is. As someone who's in a neurodiverse relationship, I loved seeing how these characters built their relationship together. The movie never plays up Goyo's autism for laughs, or ever shows him being insulted or ridiculed for it. And whenever it is mentioned, it's for a serious reason that could potentially affect what they have together. It's such a breath of fresh air to see autism portrayed in relationships like this. I enjoyed seeing how the movie acknowledges the differences the characters have between Goyo's autism and Eva's age and family. The two understand that they have a lot to navigate, but they're willing to figure things out. And I loved how they handled everything in a realistic manner, at least when it comes to Eva's side. When it comes to Goyo's perspective, that's when things get a bit more dicey, though again, it's done on purpose. Goyo's attraction to Eva borders on obsession, so when he misinterprets Eva's feelings and tries to solve problems on her behalf in ways that make sense to him, that's when issues crop up, and it made me curious to see how these two would overcome their challenges. I also liked how supportive the family members for both Goyo and Eva were of their circumstances, if not necessarily the relationship itself. Goyo's siblings Saula and Matute have different opinions on how Goyo should deal with his personal life, which makes for intriguing conflict as things escalate between Goyo and Eva. As I hinted at before, that aspect isn't there as much for Eva's side, as her kids don't really comment on Goyo dating their mom, but at least they have some sense of what's going on. Every character has their role to play in the story, and while some are more judgmental than others, they all contribute in helping the main characters to better understand their relationship and themselves. For the most part, the tone of the story is relatively consistent. It's relaxing and easygoing in the way one developing a relationship should be, aided by a piano-backed soundtrack and how Goyo's art interests tie into the story. There's even a few dashes of light humor spread throughout that highlight Goyo's mischief and innocence in the right moments. However, the tone does change at weird times, and not just due to the awkward introduction of the two leads. There's a few moments where the tone will change from being relaxing to unusually tense, and it results in odd story moments that I felt could have been handled better. For example, the angle involving Eva's ex Miguel never gets resolved in a satisfying way, and more often than not, it tends to distract from the main story at hand. I I also found the pacing of the story to be quite slow, which I understand is how a relationship like this should go, but it still felt slower than necessary. Once they bring the relationship to the next level, in terms of dating anyway, things suddenly stop and take a long time to get going again, all while the movie's bogged down by a last-minute conflict involving Goyo's mother that slows things down even more. Aside from these minor issues, the movie never loses sight of its central theme of acceptance, and how it promotes the embracing of others despite their differences, and allowing them to feel love in the same way. Even though these two aren't alike at all, they don't let that come between their feelings for each other, and it's amazing to see their bond blossom so organically. Overall, Goyo is a refreshing take on the romance genre with how it normalizes neurodiverse relationships while still telling a charming and thought-provoking story. If you like romantic dramas and are curious to see one different from the usual boy meets girl scenario, I think you'd enjoy checking this out. In an age where romance movies have become so predictable, it's nice to finally see one that not only steps away from the formula, but introduces a new one altogether. Even though it could stand to be better paced and more consistent in tone, the dynamic of the lead characters and the more realistic take on their romance make their story worthwhile. What did you think about this movie? Did you enjoy the fresh take it had on the relationship of its characters, or did you fail to see anything special in it? Let me know in the comments below. Anyways guys, that's going to wrap up my review of Goyo. Thanks for watching this video, I hope you enjoyed it, and as always stay tuned for the next part, where next time I review the Japanese anime film, The Imaginary. Bye bye!